Happy Sunday. This is Bobby and JJ Radio. In the studio, we have Kelly Broom. He's been here before with Sights Unseen, and he's brought in a very special guest, Mr. Christopher Herring. He's the president and executive director of the Global Chamber of Commerce in San Antonio, which has 525 chapters all around the world. They picked you, my man, to bring it here in San Antonio. So talk about that a little bit. Who is the Global Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah.
And how did you bring it here to San Antonio?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show.
Anytime.
Strong voice.
Well,
demands respect.
I was in the Air Force for a long time, so I should demand respect. But since retiring from the Air Force, I've been in the Chamber of Commerce business. I was the president of the Alamo City Black Chamber of Commerce, and then I've been chairing the statewide African American Chamber for at least the last 4 years. So we got to this point in my life where I wanted to continue to be in the chamber business, promoting business and opportunities for those that I know are really hardworking and they want to see their businesses do really well. And I applied for this position of executive director, Global Chamber San Antonio, and I was hired.
They heard the voice. It was.
I don't know if you.
I think it was game over. After that.
Game over.
And so from there, we said what makes Global Chamber really special is the fact that in our city, if you look at all of our trends for international business and performance, we underperform compared to other large cities like Dallas, like Houston, like Chicago, like New York.
Why is that?
Well, I think that the location of our city is probably one factor.
Are we too far south? Are we too far to...
Well, we don't have a major waterway, right? So when
we're not a port.
Yeah, we're not a real port. So when you think about what makes those other cities successful, while we may have the numbers of people, we don't necessarily have all the infrastructure. And then also look at the makeup of our companies. We have a city that's really, dominated by municipal type of, governmental agencies. And we don't really have the same.
It's kind of changing a little bit, right, in the past couple of years. But you're right. But like Houston, like New York, like they have water close by. Chicago has water close by. Dallas doesn't. So.
But they're a hub.
They're a hub. Yeah.
All right, we're not a hub.
No,
we suck.
Well, it's not that we suck. It's just it's just that San Antonio has pretty much looked at this thing called international business, and it really has not embraced promoting it to its local business community. Mm-hmm. One thing that we have is we're the U.S. Trade Department's making global local campaign leaders for our city, in which how do we take those companies that really have the capacity to grow and to grow outside of our city, outside of Bexar County. Our chamber is designed to do that. So we're really interested in looking at the revenues of our what we call stage 2 companies, companies that have about $1 million of revenues, 10 employees or more, been in the business maybe for 5 years, and really seeing how do we put some steroids to those companies, because we know that if we do and when we do, they'll be the number one job creators. And we don't have to look outside of the city for a new company to bring to San Antonio. Why don't we look at home and see what companies can we grow and then create the success story that everyone wants to embrace in our city.
And how are we able to do that? You said inject them with steroids, but what do we do to grow those companies?
Well, I've Kelly Broom here with me, and he's on our board, and I think that Kelly's really is an example of a person who is doing some great things from international commerce perspective. It's providing people like him a platform so that he can actually expand and grow his commerce. That's exactly what we're trying to do. There's so many examples of businesses that are doing some import-export type of work, or they're already in these countries. I mentioned we have 525 different metropolitan markets across the world. So when a person decides to make a decision to join Global Chamber, they're already all across the world, and they can network and they can get their business on, so to speak.
And so I know, talking with Kelly a little bit before the show, an example of some stuff that you're doing, there's a symposium that's coming on.
Symposium.
In the third week of May. Talk about that a little bit, Kelly.
Important word, symposium.
Yeah, it's the word of the day.
It's actually based on a program I set up a couple years ago when I was still serving in the Texas Army National Guard. The Special Operations Detachment for Africa is here in Texas. It's in the Texas Army National Guard, but there isn't really any infrastructure to get us smart on it. So we did a couple of conferences back in the day and had experts from medical issues, security, terrorism, business, just infrastructure development, trade, and good governance come in and talk to the members of the unit about what was important. And then from that, and the reason why that is important is in Africa, you can't just look at single entities. Like if you're going to go into business in San Antonio, you don't really worry about medical issues. You aren't worried about, hey, it's
My whole staff's going to have malaria for half the year.
You don't worry about those issues. But in Africa or in a lot of places in the developing world, if you're not concerned about the medical infrastructure, can a plane land and offload and not have half of its goods taken away?
Right.
You don't worry about those things here in the States. But if you're going to do international business, you have to understand in the developing world.
Have you been in Detroit?
Rock City, baby. But when you do it in the developing world, you have to understand that. So in May, we're going to have a symposium. We're going to bring in some State Department folks. We're going to bring in some folks who are media. We've got some medical people who will talk about the actual birthplace of the Zika virus is Africa. All diseases seem to emanate out of there. So Ebola, malaria is the number one killer.
Why do you
on the
think
planet.
that is? Why Africa?
We haven't figured it out, Bob. That's why they're having a symposium in the third week of May.
Well, there's just a lot of the interfaces that happen. So they're one of the things they think causes Ebola is it's a disease that affects all primates. So we're one of the primates that it affects, and it's brought out of its wild state from affecting animals in the wild, and people are eating what they call bush meat. So bush meat is chimpanzees, it's bats, it's all sorts of stuff. And when you do that, when you cross that threshold, and there's no FDA in the bush. There's nobody out there checking.
There's no FDA in the jungle. Like you can't eat that.
There's nobody checking your fox bat when you're going to cook it.
Put that spider monkey down.
Yeah. So, in a lot of the nuances of ways that they react to disease is a little challenging. And then if you have disease, it can destabilize a government. If the government's destabilized, it's really hard to get businesses to go in there. I'm looking hard at doing business in Zimbabwe, and everything tells me right now you better slow roll your move into Zimbabwe because they're just destabilized. I don't see a lot of people lining up to go to Venezuela right now they're waiting on the sidelines because there's opportunity there. When I'm in Africa, I see a lot of influence from competitors of ours that we aren't countering. So the Chinese and the Russians are there, but we're not there. And they like doing business with Americans because you can shake our hand and do a business deal and we'll honor the deal. You don't get that with some of our big competitors out there. You shake their hand and you better count your fingers when you pull your hand back.
Sure. So, Christopher, while we have a quick takeaway, so what is the next step for the Global Chamber here in San Antonio?
Yeah, Global Chamber right now, I think we're sitting at number 4, according to the Business Journal, in terms of the size. We're probably the fastest growing chamber simply because one membership gets our business partners into all of these marketplaces. And so it's very competitive from the very beginning. We don't advertise to be a chamber of galas and networking events because that's not what we do. We're simply trying to grow companies who really have a desire to ramp their business up and do business outside of San Antonio.
And use that network.
And use that network, yes, absolutely. As the official partner for Making Global Local, we've extended the invitation to our city of San Antonio. They, of course, have an economic development department. They also have a relationship with the San Antonio Economic Development Foundation, where we've been pouring lots of our taxpayer dollars into. We're trying to show them through the Global Chamber's lens that there's a different way of helping private business to do business, not just to send our money to various trips in which they've been using thus far to do that. When Kelly and we talk about what defines our city and its international perspective, we say it's just not going to Mexico.
Yeah,
because that's really what this region has done over the years is we've just been focusing on NAFTA, but we know that the globe is huge,
Right.
and
with the internet and everything, the world's smaller.
and that's you're right, and that's why we have Zoom presentations. Like you can actually sign on to Global Chamber, as a member, and you can actually see webinars that are taking place right now where people are pitching various businesses that they want to bring here or that we can take to them. So that's what I find, whether it's Kelly working with Africa or, Alyssa Chan, who works with the Alamo Asian Chamber and actually promoting the Asian gateway that we have through our sister city programs, or Europe. Global Chamber is truly a international spot for anybody who has a desire to want to do more.
Great. Well, thank you for everything you guys are doing with the city. For more information about this organization, go to globalchamber.org and then find the location in San Antonio. They're one of 525. Again, that's globalchamber.org.